into the water for the final time. He's won the race to go along with a championship.
Absolutely magnificent. What a stroke that is.
The following programme is recommended for those 16 and over, as it contains sporting violence, possible bad language, and flashing imagery.
Finally, we're here. Saul Canelo Alvarez versus John Ryder.
This is a proper homecoming for the true face of boxing in Guadalajara, Mexico.
50,000 expected to be in attendance to watch their hero defend his super middleweight crown.
Guess what? The king is officially home.
He's one of the greatest fighters ever. That is the face of boxing.
This is a man, this is a champion who's the best in the world.
Canelo Alvarez are really crisp, really cool.
Left to both of you. Touch him up in his wedding.
Liam Beefy Smith has never lost, has never been knocked down. Oh, and there it is. A third time. It's over. Canelo Alvarez, the WBO junior middleweight champion of the world. Canelo Alvarez making his New York City and Madison Square Garden debut.
Obey my commands at all times.
There's not much he can do. That was a headshot. Down goes the body, and that will do it.
It's over.
That is it.
It's over.
A showcase fight for the biggest star in the sport. Canelo Alvarez comes out firing. He has looked superb and punishing here tonight. Canelo Alvarez with the look of a three-division world champion. Canelo continues to fire those power shots. Keep in mind, Eddie Reynoso and Canelo predicted they would stop Saunders in either round 7, 8, or 9. And he's heating up right now. Right eye of Saunders is swelling up. Canelo rallying his troops. And it is over. They have stopped the fight. The pound-for-pound king with another win in the Lone Star State.
They used to call Floyd Mayweather the Mexican killer. It's safe to say that Canelo is the British killer Barack.
I guess so. I guess so. No, looking at that promo, you know what I noticed? Canelo has existed in two different eras. There was the Floyd Mayweather era when it was Matthew Hatton, and he defeated him, all the way into this era that belongs to Canelo.
And it's safe to say he will be part of a third era. I mean, he's only 32 years old and still in his prime. I mean, people are saying this is Canelo's prime. And all that he's done before this?
Yeah, 100%. He's saying that this is his prime, and that's the important part, that he's saying that no matter the injuries, no matter what, this is his time, and this is a homecoming. What's more important than a homecoming? How many fighters have experienced so much in their career, but then when they go back home, they're like, yo, I'm so excited about this.
Not only that, most fighters, they go back home on their farewell fights, right? They go back home where they're done with their career. They want to do a little world lap, but he's coming back home at the prime of his career to defend his titles. And he's given the people that have followed him to Texas, have followed him to Vegas, have followed him to New York, a homecoming fight where they could be at home and 50,000 can be in attendance.
No, you're absolutely right, because I remember Eric Morales said the same thing after he lost to Danny Garcia. He was like, okay, I need a homecoming. So after my long Hall of Fame career, I need to go back home to Mexico to give my people, you know, my swan song.
Yeah, I mean, look, he has a real opponent. I mean, though people might complain about this matchup, he's a credible opponent that is a mandatory. I mean, look, if you're going to fight for belts, right? If you're going to respect the sanctioning bodies and there's a mandatory, you have to fight. He did it against Yildirim. He's doing it again. I have no problem with this fight. We're talking about a live dog here.
You know, whether he was a live dog or not, I think Canelo always shows that, you know, he comes to fight and he takes every fight seriously. But I think this is different from the Yildirim. I think what you're saying is correct, that he thinks that this guy is a threat no matter what. He's 168 pounds. He's tough. He beat Danny Jacobs, you know what I mean? And Canelo is serious at this fight here. But something that you don't agree with me, I think there's pressure on Canelo.
Yeah, I don't see any pressure. I don't see any pressure with a guy that lives off of pressure. He loves performing for his Mexican fans. And that's why he's in Mexico. I mean, he's coming home. This dude is ready to perform. I'm hearing rumors that his ring entrance might be 5 or 6 minutes. He's putting a performance for these people.
Right.
There's no pressure there, man.
All right, fine.
Canelo coming home. Check it out.
The biggest star in the sport of boxing, Saul Canelo Alvarez. The undisputed champion, fearless to challenges.
And it is over. They have stopped the fight.
The pure competitor, a winner, a legend of the sport that is prepared to take on anybody.
When it comes to boxing, king of Mexico is Canelo Alvarez. In fact, he may be the king of the entire sport.
You just don't see his punches coming, and he sets them up perfectly, times them, lands them. He is among the more accurate punchers in all of boxing. That is what makes Canelo great.
When people say that you're the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, what do you think about that?
No, I'm glad to hear that, but you know, when I'm retired, we'll see in what number I am. I achieved everything in my career. I can't do anything else right now, but I love what I do, and I need to do it 100% because I love it. You don't come to the gym just because you need to come. You come to the gym because you want to learn and train 100%. That's the way, that's the only way. If you just love money, you're gonna be a champion, but a champion is a lot of champions out there.
Creo que para mí Saúl ha sido el máximo ídolo también que ha tenido México. ¿Por qué? Porque él a todas las arenas que ha ido las ha llenado. Mucha gente le tira haters que no, que lo comparan con ciertos boxeadores, pero pues digo, para eso se hicieron los números, por eso hay premios, por eso hay reconocimientos, por eso hay Salón de la Fama, todo eso. ¿Por qué? Porque los números hablan.
And new Canelo is 100% an all-time great. You look at that CV, and it's ridiculous. It's name after name. It's big fight after big fight. It's pound for pounder versus pound for pounder. And these next 2 or 3 years, it's where he stands in that pantheon of great fighters. Can he add another couple of big names to it? If he does, we could be talking about the greatest Mexican fighter of all time.
He's got that super unique look. He's so amazing in the ring. He never forgot where he came from, and most importantly, he's probably the greatest boxer alive today.
No, pues la verdad es que no sé a qué edad me di cuenta que era especial o no, pero lo que sí te puedo decir es que desde el día primero que empecé a entrenar, ahí fue cuando dije, esto es lo que quiero hacer en mi vida. Yo lo hago porque me gusta pelear, me gusta entrenar. Y así es como, pues no es que me diera cuenta que fuera especial, simplemente que amo lo que hago.
Creo que lo defendimos más, pero sí, más bien lo que yo creo que mi hermano le dio por meterse a esto es porque él veía a su hermano mayor y él siempre decía que yo era su ídolo y por eso él decía, yo quiero ser como mi hermano mayor. Y por eso empezó él a dedicarse a esto del boxeo.
Siempre le soy muy agradecido a mi hermano Rigoberto de haberme traído con Eddie y con Chepo, que fueron las personas correctas para llegar hasta donde estoy. Porque en el boxeo es muy difícil, cuando llegas a manos equivocadas es muy difícil llegar, y la verdad es que estoy muy contento de llegar con unas personas como ellos que dieron todo por mí para llegar a donde estoy, y estoy muy orgulloso de ellos y muy agradecido con ellos y con mi hermano Rigo de haberme traído.
Pues yo creo que lo que hace especial a Canelo es la disciplina que ha tenido durante toda su carrera. Es un deportista muy entregado, sobre todo una persona ganadora. Desde niño siempre le gustó lo mejor. Así es, mantiene esas mismas ganas que cuando iba empezando, que cuando no ganaba un campeonato.
Para mí es el mismo muchachito que tenía 14 años, pero ya es un hombre maduro, un hombre empresario, un hombre que ha sabido pues, llevar una vida ordenada y que seguramente no va a tener ningún problema en el futuro. Pues yo lo veo igual, pero también él sabe que aquí fue donde empezó.
Boxing offered Canelo that classic escape route. You win that, you can get there. That's the dream that he's chased throughout the years.
Canelo's mantra is boxing is life. He's given everything he has to the sport, but the sport has blessed him. It's taken him to heights, to wealth, to popularity of which he probably never even dreamed.
When I'm near to my horses and my ranch and my house, I'm always happy. I like my space, I like quiet with my people. When I was a kid, I worked in the ranch, and I love it a lot. Pues desde los 2 años la empecé a subir a los caballos, ¿no? Ya se sube sola. Le hice una silla especial para ella, una montura especial para que no se fuera para los lados, entonces pues es especial. Me gusta, pues ya viste, solita vino a montar y ella sabe el caballo que puede montar, ya me empieza a decir que quiere montar otros caballos, nomás que todavía no es tiempo. Pues pura tranquilidad, la verdad, me relaja muchísimo el estar aquí, el estar con mi familia. Me puedo sentar donde quiera, de cualquier parte del rancho, y es pura tranquilidad, así que esa era la idea desde un principio, es mi hogar, es un sueño.
Canelo loves Mexico, he loves the people, he loves the fans over there, but let's not play around. This is a business trip. He's there to do business. Canelo's almost like the Brit Basher. He has destroyed a lot of top British fighters.
Boom! Big right hand.
You know, we've heard the moniker the Mexicutioner because a certain American fighter beats so many Mexicans. Well, they could call Canelo the Englandcutioner because he's beat so many English fighters. You go down the list, and now there's John Ryder.
It doesn't matter what you think of John Ryder. I'm telling you now, this man is there on merit. He's there because of ability, and he's there because of heart. And he will leave everything in the ring in Guadalajara on May the 6th.
Listen, Canelo's the favourite. But if you just think Canelo's going to walk in there, blast him out and have fun, it's an easy homecoming for Canelo.
It's Ryder with the power!
You might be a little bit surprised.
The left hook to the side of the head that Sergey Kovalev did not see coming, followed up by a right hand that finishes it off.
Un peleador, y el que te diga que no, es mentira. Siempre un peleador se prepara para noquear, ¿no? Y quiere noquear. A la gente le gusta también que noquees, y a eso se sube uno. I think it's gonna be one of my best nights. It's gonna be special, very special for me, and I'm gonna do something special.
The fans are going to be filling this arena, Barack, in droves. I mean, it's early. It's still daylight. It's sunny out there. So a lot of time for people to get there before the king comes home. And I'm excited to how Canelo is going to walk out, and those fans, how they're going to cheer.
Well, we know that. We know that they're going to cheer, but I'm waiting to see how they're going to receive John Ryder. Somebody who deserved this spot, somebody who, you know, you was talking about how Canelo has so much experience. You were saying that when Canelo was fighting Floyd, Ryder was fighting some nobody with a bunch of losses or whatever. But one thing that Ryder he has experience in being the underdog. Right. So sometimes when you have a lot of experience in being the underdog, pressure doesn't hit you the same because you're not expected to win. So you go into training camp without any kind of thing on your shoulders, without any kind of pressure even going into camp, and then coming into the ring, you're like, I'm just going to do my best.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good, except you're going into Mexico and fighting a guy that is loved dearly in his home country with 50,000 people. So there will be slight pressure, but I agree that he'll be able to deal with it. Look, John Ryder has somewhat of I guess not a blueprint, but if you look at the Billy Joe Saunders fight, he had success against Canelo early. I mean, if you leave it up to Chris Mannix, he was winning the fight. Nevertheless, I didn't agree with that, but I thought he did have success, and he's a southpaw. Yes, he's a little more mobile than John Ryder, but in the pocket, he had moments where there was success. So you can watch that fight and maybe pick up a few pointers from that fight on how to land shots, what angles work against Canelo. So there's a lot to be hopeful for, and I'm not saying it's just hope. He's a real live dog that can punch. He's put people down, even though he's fighting one of the guys with the best chins in the sport.
Right.
I do believe he has less pressure than Canelo Alvarez, with the world to gain.
Right. I also look at John Ryder as like a Badu Jack. You know, some guy who you don't say he's the fastest, the strongest, best footwork, but the fundamentals is down packed. And that's how I look at John Ryder. Like, he does everything right. Not exceptional, but right. He has that sneaky left hook. Straight right hand is straight like it's supposed to be. He surprised me, and he surprised a lot of people when he took out the young prospect Bilal. So he can probably surprise people in how good he does against Canelo come tonight.
Let's dive a little deeper into the underdog, John Ryder.
I believe in my power. I believe in my boxing skill. I believe in my boxing brain. I'm ready to go through it all, walk through fire, smash down walls, fight my way out of a sports stadium in Mexico with 5 new belts.
Here is England's own John Ryder!
John's biggest attributes is his strength, his ability to push you back, sit on the chest, work on the inside.
He has a way of just grabbing you, finding those angles, finding those shots and doing with you what he wants.
He's the epitome of perseverance, grit, determination, will to win. It's knowing when to attack, knowing when to defend, all those things that have now elevated him to world level.
He's the ultimate professional. I think he's been a pro now for 12 years or whatever, and I don't think he's ever been late in the older them years. Even after the controversial defeats that he suffered in his career, some people would have thought, you know what, I've had a couple of them now, I ain't going to do this no more, do you know what I mean? But he's always had that dream of becoming a world champion, and I don't think, that'll come to an end until he achieves that.
Tony has never had to go chasing, never had to go looking for him. He's always wanted to do the necessary work. And he's got more than a little skill as well. He's got a terrific boxing brain, which has taken him through in these most recent years against some very good opposition. And for me, given him an opportunity that he's more than worthy of.
I believe in my power. I believe in my boxing skill. I believe in my boxing brain, and I believe that I've got the right man in my corner to do the job.
Coming to the ring first, the challenger, John the Gorilla Ryder!
Can Ryder seize the opportunity of a lifetime?
Let's get ready to rumble!
This is a very interesting fight, and it's very much in the balance. Big left hand to end the round as well for John Ryder. An eye-catching shot there at the end.
This is good work from Ryder. Doing the better, doing the stronger work. John Ryder is pushing Callum Smith to the limit here tonight. This fight is going to be desperately close. What a performance from John Ryder. Win or lose, he's absolutely covered himself in credit. The fight of his life.
by unanimous decision. The fighting pride of Liverpool, still WBA super middleweight champion of the world, Canelo Smith.
A lot of people, myself included, thought he won against Callum Smith. Callum Smith's a great fighter. He pushed him close, and I thought he didn't have to win, and a lot of people did. So, but he didn't feel sorry for himself. He dusted himself off and got back right on the bike again, and then but had to go through people like Danny Jacobs.
John Ryder's got this in the bag, and you know, pressure makes diamonds. John Ryder's just that, so I'm excited to see the performance he puts on, because I know he's going to bring the heat. I know he's going to set his stamp from the get-go and let him know what John Ryder's about. Let him know how we do it over here.
Here is England's own John Ryder!
Another rowdy British fight night with so much at stake for John Ryder. A great hook from Ryder, but Jacobs took it well and comes firing back. Now this is where Ryder wants to fight. Two solid left hooks, and suddenly Ryder is right back in the fight. 20 seconds to go in the 7th round, and Jacobs now is taking more shots here than he's taken in the contest so far. And suddenly this crowd get behind Ryder. Good work from Ryder on the inside. This is his kind of fight. This is his kind of range. And he drives Jacobs back to the ropes. And Jacobs is forced to hold on. Last few seconds. Ryder again comes stronger at the end of the round. This is turning. There's a spring in the step of Ryder.
Jacobs has messed around and got himself involved in a fight he didn't need to be in.
For your winner by split decision, from Islington, London, England, John the Gorilla Ryder!
I think there are two names that stand out, and they're names that Canelo has already fought and beaten. Daniel Jacobs, who John Ryder beat last year. Now that was very controversial, but no more controversial than his fight at the end of 2019 against Callum Smith, which many at ringside that night thought John had done enough to get the verdict. But they were both very tight fights, and Callum Smith and Daniel Jacobs both went on to challenge Canelo. And it's my view, therefore, that if John can go so close against Jacobs and win, so close against Callum Smith and win, then he too is worth a shot.
Canelo Alvarez will defend his undisputed super middleweight world championship against John Ryder, and we cannot wait.
Presentando a 5 veces campeón del mundo, Saul Canelo
John understands the magnitude of the task faced in fighting Canelo, and it's going to get tough in there, without a shadow of a doubt.
The problem you get with fighting someone like Canelo, because he's a superstar, and he's just a tremendous talent, and it's been a joy to watch all these years, and being one of the most adaptable fighters of this generation. Let's not forget that. You look at all those things and think John doesn't belong in the same ring. But when you earn your right to get there, and how he's been able to show up on the big night of his career, he not only deserves the right, he'll be a test. Listen, Canelo's the favourite. But if you just think Canelo's going to walk in there, blast him out and have fun, it's like an easy homecoming for Canelo, you might be a little bit surprised.
If you look at his professional career, he's been a professional boxer for longer than he hasn't. And so there's a lot at stake for Canelo. But that's not to say that there isn't any pressure on John. John will not want to be turning up here just to make up the numbers. He too knows that this could be something that will change his life and his career.
John Ryder is the mandatory challenger. John Ryder is the interim world champion. John Ryder is the man that Canelo Alvarez must face or lose his mantle as undisputed world champion. John Ryder is the guy who's earned his shot through victories against Daniel Jacobs, Zach Parker for the interim world title. So it doesn't matter what you think of John Ryder. It doesn't matter what you think of the fight. I'm telling you now, this man is there on merit. He's there because of ability and he's there because of heart. And he will leave everything in the ring in Guadalajara on May the 6th. And if Canelo Alvarez is not on the ball, if Canelo Alvarez is on the decline, if Canelo Alvarez is struggling after his surgery, he will have his hands right full with John Ryder. He'll be going there to create one of the greatest moments for a British fighter in the history of the sport and trying to produce the greatest victory of all time by any British fighter.
You know, Barack, the closer we get to this event, I'm thinking about the atmosphere at Canelo fights. Right? I mean, you talk about his first fight ever at the Mecca of boxing, Madison Square Garden against Rocky Fielding, fairly unknown fighter, still a packed house. I remember even the weigh-in for Rocky Fielding, the atmosphere, right? And then you talk about all of the Vegas events and all the atmosphere there. Billy Joe Saunders in Dallas, 73,000 people in attendance during a pandemic. This guy brings atmosphere to fights.
100%. That one stuck out to me the most against Billy Joe Saunders because it was pandemic time. You didn't see a mask in the building. Oh, people were dying to get out, and no. But
that was Texas. I mean,
no better place to be in front of Canelo. You know what I'm saying? Besides in front of Canelo. So that was incredible. But you know what? What also sticks out to me was Rocky Fielding because it was the first fight at 168 pounds. And just because he wasn't Callum Smith, I like that fight. And that's another thing. When he fought Rocky Fielding, everyone forgets. Lest I remind you, you said, why are you fighting Rocky Fielding and not Callum Smith? And then he did.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about Canelo, you know that it's electric every time. We've been at all of those fights, right? It's always the same type of vibe.
Yes.
I can't imagine I think it's going to be amplified in Mexico. We got our guys, Todd, Sergio, and Mannix over there ringside getting ready. Trust me, the storm is coming. Let's go over to those guys so they can set you up.
Welcome to the beautiful sunshine and extreme heat of Guadalajara, Mexico. That's why we're in sunglasses right now. My name's Todd Grisham, of course, the Latin Snake, Sergio Mora, and Chris Mannix. Some are saying this is the biggest sports week in Guadalajara in history. Sergio Perez, the F1 driver, just won the Azerbaijan race. He's on the pole for Miami this weekend. Chivas, the soccer team who plays in this stadium, qualified directly to the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. And of course, Sergio, it's Canelo Alvarez fight week. You've been here for seemingly ever. What's the mood of this city right now?
The mood is incredible wherever you go, the restaurants, the people on the streets, the fans, even the kids, because Canelo put aside seats for the press conference for kids in schools. It was amazing. The Viva Mexico chants, the band, I can't wait. 50,000 screaming Mexican fans to support their very own. It's going to be unbelievable.
Hey, the one thing I noticed walking out here, Chris, besides obviously the sun, is this ring. It's extremely small, is it not?
Yeah, it's an 18 by 18 foot ring. Now, traditionally in the US and in the UK, you see 20 by 20. Occasionally you see 22 by 22, which is what we got for Billy Joe Saunders against Canelo Alvarez a couple of years ago. But in Mexico, you often get smaller rings. So we do have an 18 by 18 foot ring. You know, this is probably going to at some point become a fight in a phone booth because that ring resembles a phone booth.
And which fighter does the smaller ring favor, Sergio?
You know what? It's going to favor the fans because I know it sounds cheesy, but we're going to get a great action-packed fight because they have nowhere to run. Canelo's not a mover. John Ryder's not a mover, so they're only going to go forward. They're going to clash. They have to make it exciting.
Let's talk about the actual fight itself. Chris, what are your kind of keys for John Ryder to at least make this very competitive?
Well, John Ryder has to get inside. There's no question about that. If this fight is fought at a distance, he loses. If this fight's fought at mid-range, he loses. If he can find a way to get on the inside and muck this fight up a little bit, make it a physical fight, he gives himself a chance to score points and win a decision. You saw in the Daniel Jacobs fight. In the first half of that fight, he was outboxed by Daniel Jacobs. He allowed that fight to take place on the outside. In the second half, he got on the inside, he roughed Jacobs up, he hit him with some clean shots. John Ryder has to make that his strategy from the opening bell tonight.
Ryder's going to have to use his size advantage. They're going to be pretty similar in size and stature. Canelo's accustomed to fighting tall fighters, 6'1" and higher and taller. So I think finally fighting somebody that's his stature, it's going to be a little bit of a problem to reach the right spot. You're going to be able to hit the shoulders, the body, but from that southpaw stance, it's going to be tricky for Canelo, especially in the early rounds.
You know, a lot of people are calling this a celebration for Canelo, but correct me if I'm wrong, there's a lot of pressure on Canelo. He's fighting in Mexico for the first time in over a decade. Everyone here is going to say they're his best friend growing up, and his grandmother is seeing him fight for the first time as a pro in over 60 fights. That's a lot to be thinking about when you walk in the ring.
I don't think he thinks about anything. I think Canelo compartmentalizes everything in his life. I think that's why he's a professional, over 60 fights. He's been a pro for 18 years. Nothing's going to intimidate this man.
Look, I do think there is some pressure on Canelo Alvarez because he made it clear if he loses this fight, he will retire from boxing. So it is, in his mind, win or go home. And there are some variables here. Look, he is coming off probably the worst year of his professional career. He lost to Dmitry Bivol. He got a decisive win against Gennady Golovkin, but it wasn't the dominant performance I think a lot of people were expecting. Immediately after that fight, he had major surgery on his left hand and wrist, so he has spent some time rehabbing and trying to get that wrist and hand strong once again. So there are definitely questions about Canelo Alvarez coming into this fight.
Well, with 50,000 people here to see Canelo, they want to see him win, but they also want excitement from the undercard, Sergio. Give me the one fight you're most excited about.
Goyas, Valenzuela, and Sparks. I think that has fireworks written all over there. With 18-foot ring, it has to end in a knockout. I say just don't get up and go anywhere. It's going to end in a knockout.
Yeah, I look at Alexander Vostok, who is the opener on our telecast, and look, he is someone that was once a pretty big name in the light heavyweight division. He was a world champion. He knocked out Adonis Stevenson a few years ago. Then he subsequently retired after his loss to Artur Beterbiev. Vostok took about 2+ years off, came back, got a shake off the rust fight earlier this year, and this fight against Ricards Balatniks is going to be a test for him. If he wins, he puts himself right back in the mix in the light heavyweight division.
You know, talked about Canelo feeling pressure perhaps tonight. How about Julio Cesar Martinez? I mean, this guy could do no wrong about a year and a half ago, but he's lost some of that luster off of his name. Does he get it back tonight?
Yeah, it was a lack of discipline. It was a lack of responsibility and maturity on his part, but he's still, you know, when you're that talented, you're that explosive, and you're like a little Tasmanian devil in there. I mean, he was running over everybody, but outside the ring, that's when he had his issues. Those got nipped in the bud with Eddie Reynoso. I think we're going to see the best of Martinez tonight.
I think there's a lot of pressure, too, on Julio Cesar Martinez. He's facing a lower-tier opponent, but there's a lot at stake with a win. He gets a win, and there's probably a fight waiting for him in the 112-pound division, a unification fight. Then maybe you're talking about Sonny Edwards. Then maybe you're talking about Bam Rodriguez. So for Julio Cesar Martinez, this is a massive moment for him.
Right now, there's about 1,000 people here. Don't worry, 49,000 will still show up here a little later on. Much more from Guadalajara coming up. We send it back to you in the studio.
That's right, the DBS boys are back together at Day Oladipo. He's about to lead you guys on the main broadcast. We got a lot to talk about. First, we know that you're British, a proudful British.
I am.
You are a realist as well.
You are correct. Both of those things are real with me.
And a little bit of a hater, too.
Well, you know, we have to even up.
Canelo hater? Maybe a little Canelo hater?
No, we have to even things up a little bit here.
A little bit of hater.
But look, big fan of John Ryder. I've known him for a few years. I think his journey is one that we need to praise and celebrate, because you look at it and to think of where he is now, this guy is attempting to become one of the all-time British success stories, not just in boxing, but in sport. And you've got to give it up to those kind of guys, because it's easy to suffer a couple of defeats, especially in fights I thought he won, and you get deflated. You think, okay, maybe I'm not going to get my shot. He got his shot, and here he is now. And it's life-changing opportunity, isn't it?
Right. You think because we call boxing at the unexpected, even though he's a heavy underdog, right? Is that what we hope for, right? To see something exciting happen in a fight that nobody's expecting? Do you think that's what the British fans, at least those that are supporting Ryder, are hoping for? A miracle?
No,
and I hate to say a miracle.
I don't even think it's a miracle. I think, look, we want him to be competitive. We're all fight fans here. Look, we've all been watching the sport for over 30 years, and we always have something which surprises us in this sport of boxing. Nothing is predictable. Expect the unexpected. And look, I'm not trying to say that John Ryder's going to go to Mexico and win. I'm just trying to say I think he makes it competitive for a few rounds, and that's what we want. No one wants to see a blowout, and I don't think we will see a blowout.
I definitely think styles make fights. You know, Rocky Fielding was not competitive against Canelo. Rocky Fielding beat John Ryder. You understand? So but styles make fights. I think John Ryder's style can be competitive a little bit to Canelo, as opposed to like a Rocky Fielding.
All right, so it's safe to say that they'll be okay with a few competitive rounds, and that's it, even if he doesn't win. Look, let's talk about Canelo being on the top of the pound-for-pound list for quite a while, for a very long time, until he took that loss against Bivol. A lot of people had him way low.
Are we going to go there and start this argument over again from yesterday?
Yesterday, we dabbled with it a little bit, but today we're going to go to my pound-for-pound list, top 5, Barack's pound-for-pound list, top 5, and Ade definitely doesn't agree with us at all. But
look at the way he's looking at it now. Look at his face.
Well, here's one that he's not in agreement with us, and we're talking about Terence Crawford, which is insane to me that Ade has somebody else, and he'll let you know in a minute. Ade, let's start off with number 1, all right? Top guy in the sport. Yeah. I'm basing it on skill level, dominance, and accomplishments. Why is Terence Crawford not on your pound-for-pound list at number 1?
Look, I've got Terence Crawford as number 2, and understand here, before we have this debate or semi-argument, which we're about to have, these are the top dogs. These are the top dogs, and if you have any of these guys number 1 in any order, there's no shame in your order because you're talking about champions here. I've got Terence Crawford as number 2. I've got Alexander Usyk as number 1.
Okay, let's stop there for a second.
Oh, okay.
Let's talk Usyk, right?
He said, okay.
We don't want to go through
Don't let me get my side out.
Because let's tell the people that's his number 1 fighter. I want to know why.
Well, Alexander Usyk?
Yeah.
I just think a fantastic fight. Stop spinning in your chair. What's all this spinning? I think
he's angry. He's waiting to jump on you.
A fantastic fighter. Obviously, undisputed at cruiserweight, unified now at heavyweight. And what I like about Alexander Usyk, and this is no slight on Terence Crawford, it's not his fault. Every battle that Usyk has won, he's won it away from home. He's always got into the opponent's backyard and defeated the opponent. We talk about what John Ryder has to do.
Won his first belt
John Ryder has to do
in your hometown.
Yeah, fantastic. It's an amazing achievement. I said Usyk's every belt. Not a belt, not one belt, every single belt. He's gone to Bradis's backyard. He beat AJ. We guys were all there for that fight. He's coming out to boos. He walks out to cheers. I just think he's an incredible fighter. And it's funny, we talk about pound for pound, and this guy's had to jump up 40 pounds to take on. Look, we stood next to AJ. These guys are monsters. These guys are 6'7", 250-pound linebackers. And that's what he's had to do. But again, this isn't me disrespecting Crawford. Crawford, for me, is number 2. I just think they're both incredible fighters, but I just like the work of Crawford. Sorry, I like the word of Usyk over Crawford.
If you had maybe in a way number 1, I probably wouldn't argue you, even though I feel like Terence is number 1 no matter what. But not Usyk. Not Usyk, because a win is a win. But when a win is dominantly shown, when you see a guy knocking everybody out, and fighters that other fighters can't knock out, like a Errol Spence, who's on that list as well, and couldn't knock out a Sean Porter, that says a lot. Now, Usyk did very well at 200 pounds. He didn't go up 40 pounds. He went up 25 pounds. He did very well at cruiserweight, beat some pretty good names in that division, moved up, didn't dominate. He got some wins.
Let's be fair. He struggled with Chisora. He struggled with Witherspoon. And I'm going to say, even though he ended dominating the fight, he struggled. We could go all day with this. If we have time, we'll come back to it. Right now, Mr. Matchroom himself, Eddie Hearn, with Chris Maddox. I mean,
that was Eddie Hearn.
That was quick. Normally, he goes a lot longer than that.
Yeah,
a lot longer.
What happened? I didn't hear what he said.
All right, let's go. Eddie Hearn with Chris Maddox. Let's try it again.
All right, Eddie, we're doing this inside Canelo Alvarez's locker room, in part because it's approaching 100 degrees out there ringside. But I don't think the 50,000 fans that are going to be sprinkling in here over the next couple of hours really care about that. What's the atmosphere been like around the city this week?
Absolutely crazy. I mean, on the streets, we saw it at the weigh-in yesterday. You know, they had a very nice theatre that was full up of local kids and invitees, and outside there were thousands of people in the square just hanging off railings, just trying to get a glimpse of their hero. I've never seen anything like this. You know, we've got obviously AJ back in the UK. He was a superstar and a national treasure. This is on another level. It's chaos. It's mayhem, and it's everything you'd expect from the homecoming of Canelo Alvarez in Guadalajara. But you've got to embrace it. And I think that's what John Ryder's going to do. Certainly I expect Saul to do that. I think we're going to get a great fight tonight.
Let's talk about John Ryder, who's no stranger to going into enemy territory to take take a fight. But going into Liverpool to face Callum Smith and Rocky Fielding, a little bit different than coming into Guadalajara to face Canelo Alvarez. What have you seen from his demeanor this week?
Honestly, a very calm approach. You know, John's been around. You know, sometimes you build a fighter who hasn't really learned about the hardships of boxing. You know, they've been given an easy ride, a paper record. John's sort of been thrown in the deep end. He stayed at middleweight too long. He looked like his career might be over, lost really tight decisions to Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, 2 fights that could have gone either way, and come back, beat Daniel Jacobs, beat Zach Parker. He's here on merit. He's the mandatory challenger. So I think he's just got to understand that. He's got to understand he's a world-class super middleweight, but he's fighting a guy who may be still pound for pound #1. Things have got to go in John Ryder's favour. He's got to be unbelievable tonight.
So Canelo Alvarez is still the biggest box office star in the North America, at least, probably worldwide. But he has kind of fallen from the top of the power rankings, so to speak, top of the pound-for-pound rankings. He loses to Dmitry Bivol last year. He has a good fight against Gennady Golovkin, but didn't dominate maybe the way most people expected, and he had hand surgery. Are you getting the sense that Canelo is coming into this fight with any kind of extra juice to show that he is still at the top of his game?
Well, I mean, if you want to convince John Ryder that he's in a good spot, you start talking about the wear and tear. You start talking about the hand surgery, the knees, the fact that it was 2 subpar performances from Canelo Alvarez last year. If you're talking on behalf of Canelo Alvarez, you're saying he's now injury-free. He wants to make a statement. He wants to tell the world that he's still pound for pound #1. He wants to produce a heroic performance in his hometown of Guadalajara. So we don't know, is the reality. There is a chance that the wear and tear and the number of fights that Canelo Alvarez means that maybe he's not the fighter that he was 2 years ago. I think you're going to see a special performance tonight. I think you're going to see Canelo Alvarez want to make a statement to the world to show that he's still the governor.
I don't think you're going to need that jacket out there.
I know.
Joining us now, part of the broadcast team, the main broadcast team, former world champ Darren Barker and current unified champ Jessica McCaskill. Later on, you guys are going to get busy with Ade. Let's talk fights now. I heard you say something a little out there yesterday that see John Ryder winning this fight, but I want to go to Darren first. Look, we know he's your guy, right? Yeah. But you know what he's facing. But if you're in Ryder's corner, what's the tactic here? What are we going to fight an aggressive fighter who's almost the same size? What are you telling him?
But hold on. First of all, you look fit. Either you're training for KSI or maybe Jake Paul.
Fight shape.
He's putting hints out there. The zone X.
But how can we go to him first when you are the culprit? Yes, you are the culprit.
No, let her think.
Because it's not that you can't have your pick.
Let's go to her.
It's not like you can't have your pick. So I don't believe that that's her pick.
What miracle is going to happen today that we don't see?
I looked at some John. I haven't followed him, so I'm looking at just what everybody else sees on the tape. And this man has some crazy angles, and he's lefty. Not that Canelo's never fought a lefty. We know he has. But his lefty angles are insane. And some people they think they see something coming and they think they can defend it. And when it's at the right angle, it lands. And so I just think that, John Ryder is very calm. He seemed very confident at the weigh-in. He's going to walk in. And then when he's within arm's length, he throws like there's nothing calm about his punches. So I see something there. And I saw it with Bivol, so I'm just going to say my piece.
I thought he was his manager, not you. I don't know what's going on.
But let's be real here. Look, that makes sense, right? That's a good theory. But you're talking about a guy who has the best chin in boxing, right? So I can't see Ryder hurting him. He's already fought a southpaw that's quick on his feet, faster with his hand in Billy Joe Saunders. So how is it that he's going to win 12 or more than 6 rounds to win this fight?
Okay, so we talked about the physical, okay, what we saw, what he can do. Now talking about heart and mental, this will change John Ryder's life. Like, this is going to be the thing that just like shoots his career. And sometimes when you're that hungry and you're coming for somebody at the top, there's a little extra oomph in your fight.
Hold on, Barack.
You felt me.
She was a banker. She's a current champion. After boxing promoter is in her horizons. Darren, I mean, come on. Is she way off or is she?
The magic of the underdog. Every dog has its day. Who thought James Buster Douglas was beating Tyson? Lloyd Honeyghan, Don Curry. Wow. You know, Andy Ruiz of late against Anthony Joshua. These guys weren't supposed to win, but they won somehow. You look at every department, better jab, stronger, bigger puncher, better ring IQ. They had it in abundance, but these guys still won. It's the magic. It's what makes this sport so incredible. Sometimes the underdog wins. And look, John Ryder and the team know it doesn't get much tougher. They understand the task at hand, but let's break all this back. This is sport. You want to see how good you are. You want to test yourself against the best. You want to prove to the world how good you are. Most importantly, John Ryder wants to show Canelo how good he is. And I just think, you know, he's going to have to box out of his skin, and potentially Canelo will have to have an off day, but still, this can happen.
I think you should be the mayor of boxing. That sounded like a prepared speech and was too good. I can't even rebuttal that. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. When you bring up guys like Andy Ruiz, you know, how can you refute that?
Yeah. But what I will say, with what I've just said there, that was heavyweight boxing.
Yeah.
You know, 2 of those fights were heavyweight boxing. Right. And anything can happen in the heavyweight division. You pointed out there, arguably the best chin in boxing. You know, if Golovkin's not knocking you out, then nobody's knocking you out.
Not even hurting you.
Is it kind of safe to say the disparity in skill level is way bigger than like a Ruiz and Anthony Joshua, though?
Yeah, okay. When it comes to skill, I'll try and give you a bit of insight on John Ryder. John Ryder has a way. Look, you're right, he has fought lefties before, but 2 different lefties of late, Lara, Erislandy Lara and Billy Joe Saunders. They're busy on their feet, they move.
Yeah.
John Ryder's tricky, crafty, like Jess says, moves, creates angles, very dangerous with that lead right hand. He walks you onto uppercuts. He'll skip side to side. He'll smother his opponent's work to nullify their good work. He'll grab hold of you. He'll slip the uppercut. It's a different style altogether. I think you said yesterday, Ak, that he's fought these sort of guys before. I don't know if he has. This is a different, don't get me wrong, Ryder's been beaten before, but he's a confident fighter at the minute, and he's a different kind of fighter. Look, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I've got to stick up for my boy. I've got to stick up for John Ryder. I understand the task at hand here, but sometimes special things happen.
Jessica, how do we know when a fighter isn't just happy to be in the moment, to get the payday, and is looking at that as success, but he wants to actually win the fight? How do we know?
I feel like, you know, looking at their career and the different things that they've done, I feel like John Ryder has some. I went and just put his name on YouTube, and then there was a whole knockout reel, not 1 or 2 knockouts. It was a knockout reel, and so I just think that he's very serious about it. I think the fact that this is a mandatory, correct? That just happens to be a coincidence. Like, I'm sure he was working his way there, and then now he's a mandatory. And I love that this is a mandatory. There's sometimes when people are mandatories and they should not be in the ring with the person. Yes. So this is a very respectable mandatory. I'm excited to see the fight.
I will also say, money isn't John Ryder's life. Boxing's his life. Anyone that knows John Ryder, he lives and breathes this sport.
The money doesn't hurt, though.
I mean, it softens the blow. It makes everything worthwhile. But his main objective is to become a world champion. Boxing is his life.
What fights, other fights on the undercard standing out?
Do you know what? I like Golaz Stevie Sparks. When I look at that, stylistically, I just can't see either men wanting to take a back step. So I just think that the first bell goes, they're both very dangerous with the right hand. And I just think that catches fire early. I like Vojdik, Bolotniks. 2 guys, in my opinion, that have a lot to prove. Yeah. They need a big win. They need a big win. And I like this undercard. I really, really do like the undercard.
I like the spark fight because both of those guys fought Montana Love, and so you start to form your opinions based off of how those fights with Montana Love went, and so I kind of want to see if I'm right there. There's also a featherweight or a flyweight fight on, and
Rodriguez.
yes, anytime those young lightweight guys get in there, they throw a million punches.
You know you wanted to say little.
Little, but little is like it's great.
I mean, Ray Martinez, I would say, is a great appetizer for the main event. Julio Cesar Martinez. I mean, this dude, he reminds me of a young Prince Nassim. Maybe not, it's skilled, right? But I'm talking about in terms of throwing punches from different angles.
And he looks for blood.
That's all he looks for. He doesn't want to win by decision.
His opponent, yeah.
What's that saying that he says? I don't know.
Oh, sin miedo. Something, sin miedo, it means no fear, no fear.
Nice.
Oh, okay. I don't think his momentum has stopped. Do you think Martinez's? Because they've been saying that lately.
I mean, look, I thought Chocolatito had a great win over him. I mean, we're talking about a legend. I mean, this guy was on a pound-for-pound list for so long, so skilled from his background with Alexis Arguello being part of that camp. So I expected that win. He's levels above him in terms of skill, but he was so competitive in that fight. I still wanted to see him fight again, so I wouldn't say he lost momentum, maybe a slight bit.
All right, so now to the co-promoters of John Ryder, do either one of you guys, would you guys be surprised if John Ryder goes 12 rounds and it's almost even?
I'm going to say this, because y'all going to fall out your chair, so I hope just buckle in. I'm telling you, John Ryder almost has, no neck. Like, this man is like, if he knocks, let's do this. If he knocks Canelo down, somebody owe me $20. Like,
all right, let's do it. Let's place that bet. A friendly 20 right here if he drops Canelo Alvarez.
You're going to owe some money, by the way. You've shaken a lot of hands this week.
I forget the bets. I don't know.
He got
I think it's voided. The next
right
day is voided. No doubt. Look, obviously this is a massive, massive fight tonight on the Zone, but on the Zone schedule, massive fights coming. Take a look.
And now entering the arena,
Both of these women are champions, and they're fighting like champions.
What a sensational finish.
But the very, very good solid work for Rocha.
I want the legacy, achieve my dream.
Tijuana, Mexico, Jaime Munguia.
Jason
Quigley attacking.
So, Nate Diaz, fight me. Think you're the top creme de la creme right here. I'm coming for you.
All right, obviously, we're getting prepared for this massive Canelo homecoming fight. 50,000 expected to be in attendance. And they're starting to scatter in the arena, Barack. I see it's early. It's early, and there are a lot of fights. So there's not going to be an empty seat in that house by the time the co-main events starts before Canelo. So I'm excited to see what's to come.
You know, there's one event that really changed my life, and that was Serrano versus Taylor. And I think this is going to probably exceed that.
All right, well, let's see what the guys over at ringside, Todd, Sergio, Mannix, what they think about it.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are live in Guadalajara, Mexico, getting set for, of course, the return of Canelo Alvarez to his hometown. He hasn't fought here in nearly 12 years. He, of course, is the Latin Snake Sergio Mora and Chris Mannix. We're less than 10 minutes until the start of our pay-per-view. Chris, what are some of the big questions you have entering tonight?
I think it's about John Ryder and how he starts in this fight. John Ryder has to get on the inside in this fight. He has to force his way on the inside, and he has to do it without taking a lot of punishment while he's getting on the inside. Against Daniel Jacobs, he fell behind effectively 6 rounds to none because he allowed Jacobs to dictate the pace and he allowed Jacobs to outbox him. Similarly, very early in the Zach Parker fight, Parker had success because he boxed from the outside. When John Ryder gets in the inside, he tends to be successful. When it becomes more of a boxing match on the outside, that's when he gets himself into trouble. I'm very interested to see what John Ryder's game plan is to get on the inside against Canelo Alvarez.
Both these fighters are going to be forced to fight, Todd. They're fighting an 18-foot ring. It's going to get fast really quick. It's going to get violent very fast because I'm telling you, there's nowhere to go in there. They're going to be forced to fight. We know that Canelo has that Mexican style. He's going to want to make that 18-foot ring even smaller. Ryder, as Mannix just said, likes to get on the inside. Both of them are same stature, same strength. I mean, this is going to be explosive.
In his fight against Triple G, Canelo injured his hand. He's had surgery since then. Says it's 100%, Sergio, but do we really know until he throws a real punch in a real fight?
You never know how you're going to react with old injuries, but here's the thing about injuries. We're accustomed to fighting through it. Anytime you have a hand injury, we just wrap it up extra tight, more tape, more gauze. And yeah, you can always hit certain part of the head where it's going to tweak, but that's part of being a fighter, and you got to fight through the pain.
Yeah, one thing about this injury was that it didn't so much impact Canelo's performances in the ring as much as it did how he trained. He was never able to train over the last couple of years, he says, at completely 100%. He was always worried about throwing and further injuring that hand. And even though he knew for the better part of a year that he needed to get this fixed, said one more fight. Decided to get it fixed the last time, and now he's ready to go at 100%.
All right, just a couple of minutes away to the start of our pay-per-view. And by the way, guys, just like at a soccer game where they have like their training kits on before the game starts, don't worry, we got our jackets. We're going to put them on. It's 91 degrees, mind you, but at least we have shade now, so we are warmed up and ready to go. Back to you guys.
All right, fight fans, we are moments away from arguably the face of boxing. Arguably. One of the biggest fights. You know, some
who's
people
arguing?
The biggest fights of the year as the king comes home. For myself and Barack, before the bell, main broadcast starting shortly. Peace and love.
Dear Saul, you're just a kid from Guadalajara like so many of us are. A kid from our streets with nothing to lose. A kid who became something. The undisputed champion of the world. A kid with millions watching every punch and every fall, and thousands following in your footsteps. And with every new opponent, your mentality shines through. No boxing, no life. In darkness and light. Now, this is your moment. In your city, with your titles. But this is also for those that wear the flag. For the kids on our streets. For the kid that you are. You're still that kid from Guadalajara. The kid that became a king. The king is coming home.